Hey, what's up everyone? How's it going? This is Watch, and in this video we'll be doing a head-to-head smartphone comparison between the all-new HTC One M9 and the Apple iPhone 6 Plus. So if you're interested in seeing how the new M9 compares against the giant iPhone, this is a perfect video for you. We're going to be taking a look at a whole bunch of different things that make up these two smartphones. So if you're interested in perhaps upgrading to one of these smartphones in the near future, or perhaps you're just interested in seeing what the major differences are between the two in real life, this is a perfect comparison. So without any further delays, let's get right into this video. Now, in terms of the physical size comparisons between the two, obviously the iPhone 6 Plus is going to be a little bit bigger in terms of the footprint because you have the larger screen size and it is taller and wider than the M9. But in terms of thickness, it's still pretty thin at 7.1 millimeters versus the M9 is about 9.6 millimeters. And weight-wise, the iPhone is actually a little bit heavier at 172 grams versus about 157 grams on the M9. Now, in terms of build quality, the M9 is probably one of the best Android smartphones. In terms of build quality, it's really up there with anything you would find from Apple, so that's definitely nice to see. And both of them are made out of really high quality aluminum and metal alloy construction, but there is a difference in terms of the finish. The M9 uses a more kind of satin, grippier finish than the 6 Plus, giving people with butterfingers a little bit more assurance that their phone won't slip out of their hand. Because the iPhone 6 Plus is more of a phablet than a traditional smartphone, you do have some handy features that makes it a little bit more easier to use with one hand. Now, the M9 is just perfect for a smartphone size. It's not too big, not too small, and I think 5 inches is a great display size. Now, speaking of the display, in terms of resolution, both of these two smartphones have the exact same resolution of 1920 by 1080, and they're using very similar LCD technology. Basically, we're using an LED IPS display on the iPhone, and we're using a Super LCD 3 capacitive touchscreen display on the M9. In terms of PPI count, we do have a lower PPI count on the iPhone because it has a larger overall screen size, but in reality, I do see that there's a minor difference in terms of sharpness, but nothing really to brag about on the M9. One thing is for sure is that the color saturation and contrast is much higher on the 6 Plus. Colors look a lot more vibrant, and the overall image quality seems to pop more than what you would expect to see on the M9, which is a lot more neutral in terms of its color rendition and perhaps even a little bit more realistic. With that higher contrast level, the black levels are also better on the iPhone from my experience. When I was watching movies at nighttime, they felt a little bit more darker and deeper than the more grayer experience that I got on the M9, even with the brightness set to its lowest setting. Furthermore, in more brighter outdoor conditions, because the iPhone 6 Plus has the front polarizing layer, you're going to avoid a lot more reflections that you would typically experience with a normal LCD screens, and it can pump out a little bit more lumens from my experience as well. So a little bit better usability on the iPhone 6 Plus in really bright outdoor conditions. Now, one thing that the iPhone does not have is those amazing boom sound speakers that all of the HTC One phones have come with thus far. And to illustrate the difference between the two in terms of the external speaker sound, let's go ahead and take a listen to both of these two smartphones. Now, moving on, taking a look at the internal specs of these two bad boys, you're going to look at a very different architecture on these two. Basically, the iPhone 6 Plus is identical internally to the standard iPhone 6 using an Apple A8 dual-core chip that's clocked around 1.4 gigahertz, that has 1 gigabyte of RAM, and the new M9 is using Snapdragon's latest 810 chip, which is an 8-core CPU comprised of 2 quad-core chips, and we're using the brand new Adreno 430 GPU, as well as 3 gigabytes of RAM, which is quite a lot more than what you get on the iPhone. Now, to further evaluate the differences between the two, let's go ahead and take a look at some of my benchmark results to see which phone comes out on top. Now, taking a look at the Geekbench 3 results, we can see that the iPhone 6 Plus does a little bit better when it comes to the overall single-threaded application performance, getting around 1,600 points versus just under 1,300 points on the M9. But when it comes to the multi-thread performance, you can't really compete with an 8-threaded processor when it comes to the M9. So we're definitely doing a lot better there of scoring over 4,000 points versus just under 3,000 points on the iPhone 6 Plus. Now next, taking a look at the Antutu benchmark, which measures things like the graphical horsepower as well as the RAM and CPU configurations, we are getting a much higher score on the M9 of over 56,000 points. Very impressive to see there. The iPhone 6 is just over 47,000 points, which isn't bad, but really it looks like the HTC One M9 is probably one of the fastest smartphones you can get in the market. Very impressive to see. Now, in terms of the internal memory options, you're really dictated by the model that you choose on the iPhone. So you have the option of going with a 16, 64, or 128 gigabyte version. Or on the M9, you can basically get the standard 32 gigabyte version, and you have a micro SD expansion slot, thankfully, so you can upgrade the memory as much as you like. Now let's talk cameras finally. The front-facing cameras on both these two are quite different, both in terms of the actual sensor and resolution. You're looking at a 4-megapixel ultra sensor on the new M9. It's going to deliver some really great stills and video capabilities for selfies and anything regarding front-facing capabilities. So excellent camera in terms of the front. Now the rear camera is a little bit different story. We have quite a bit in terms of resolution, 20.7 megapixels versus the 8 megapixels that we see on the iPhone 6 Plus, but the iPhone 6 Plus does have optical stabilization, so you're definitely going to get excellent low light performance as well as some great looking video footage, especially when you're doing kind of handheld stuff. And in real life, when you're looking at these two side by side in terms of image quality, generally speaking, the iPhone 6 Plus renders out a better image quality in 9 times out of 10 situations. In most cases, if your lighting is not ideal, you're definitely going to find better overall low light conditions and color balance on the camera on the iPhone 6 compared to the M9, which, even though it has a very high resolution image, is still not delivering the sheer image quality that you would like it to. Now, in a more ideal situation where you have plenty of light, you are going to find more detail and more cropping options on the M9, but that being said, the image that you get in a perfectly lit situation on an iPhone 6 Plus is just as good in my opinion. Video wise, you're looking at 4K video capabilities on the M9, which is really great to see. And again, in good lighting conditions, you're going to have a pretty good looking video, but in poor lighting conditions, the iPhone is always going to look a lot better. And plus you have optical stabilization, so your handheld stuff is going to look very smooth on the iPhone versus it's a little bit more jittery and shaky on the M9, especially when you're shooting video handheld, which you're going to do most of the time anyways. Lastly, in terms of slow motion capabilities, we have 240 frames per second at 720p on the iPhone and about 120 frames per second 720p on the M9. So definitely better slow motion capabilities on the iPhone as well. Now, lastly, we're going to talk about the battery performance of these two. In terms of capacity, you're looking at a 2840 milliamp hour battery on the M9 and just under 3000 milliamp hours on the iPhone 6 Plus. And in my experience, the 6 Plus definitely delivered a couple of more hours of juice than the performance I got with my M9 after a couple of days of usage. On the iPhone, on a single charge, you can definitely get throughout a 12-13 hour day, and you'll have about a half a day more for the next day. So it's excellent for power users that don't like to charge their phones often, but thankfully you do have a couple of neat features on the HTC One M9. You do have fast charging capabilities, so you can get up to 60% charge in just in 30 minutes, and that's fantastic. Certainly a handy feature for a lot of people out there. But on that, guys, that's really it. Make sure to give us a thumbs up if you like this video. That really helps us out. And definitely let me know in the comments section on whether you would go with the M9 opposed to the iPhone 6 Plus. There's definitely a lot of interesting considerations you'll have to take to make that move. But I think the M9 is certainly not a major different from the previous generation M8, certainly in terms of its physical overall look. It's a very similar phone, but there are a couple of different touches, certainly in terms of the internal processing capabilities, where it definitely shines over the previous generation and is a great rival for stuff like the iPhone 6 Plus. So again, thank you so much for watching. Check out the description for more information about each of the smartphones, but we'll see you later. Take care.